Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I rise on behalf of New Zealand First Take a Call, and in doing so, I need to acknowledge a wonderful contribution from the member across the other side of the House, a man who Matt Ducey said this evening should only be on half his wages because he was a list MP. So, Nook Karako, I think you need to talk to your man over there and maybe explain to him just as hard working as he is. I want to say that speaking of hard working, the piece about this legislation that annoys some of us more than anything is what I would describe as the PNS. It's something that the national government seems to suffer from, which is patronising nanny state syndrome. And that is all over this bill. And if I look at the legislation, let's go to paragraph 2. New Zealand local governments and local authorities need to adapt their governance arrangements and structures to lift performance and respond to emerging challenges. Really? Really? Is that true? Where's the evidence of that? Councils need more options to coordinate and combine networks and scarce resources across regions and towns, especially for large-scale infrastructure. Really? As every council, I've attended quite a few local government New Zealand conferences over the years, and I don't hear, and I have never heard, Mr. Speaker, local government New Zealand. Point of order.
Point of order, Ron Mark.
I think you know what I'm referring to, Mr. Speaker. It's just a little distracting.
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I certainly know what I'm... there's too much noise over here because I can't hear the speaker, so I'd ask members to quiet down. Now, your point of order, Ron Mark.
So that was exactly it, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Thank you. I do not recall, Mr. Speaker, local government New Zealand standing up and chorusing these words. And what worries New Zealand First is that this piece of legislation, which supposedly is all being put together for the benefit of local government, to enhance local government, has not actually been put together by local government. This is another attempt by the national government, who simply hates local government. I don't understand why they have this syndrome. They've had MPs like Mark Blumsky here. They've got 3 former mayors sitting in their ranks. But they seem to have this view that local government New Zealand forever needs to be told what to do and how to do it. So if we want to talk about CCOs and providing a capability for councils to come together and work together, maybe this government should have taken time out itself to read the combined Wairarapa Council's report and their own proposal for amalgamating the 3 councils in the Wairarapa, something that they and their local government commission rejected. The funny thing about the local certain councils around the country is they're already doing this. Local government, Wairarapa, Masterton, South Wairarapa, Carterton have, I think, are still the only area, the only region in New Zealand where you have a combined district plan. Do we need new legislation to make it possible to have a combined plan? No. And in fact, Wairarapa, Masterton, Carterton, South Wairarapa were given an award for their innovative approach to producing a combined district plan. Do we need new legislation? No, because it's already happened, it's been done. Do we need to be interfering at central government level on shared services arrangements? Well, actually, and it's interesting that the you've got so many National Party MPs sitting here blabbering and chattering away themselves, not listening. If they listen, they might learn something. Right now, there are a number of shared service contracts in the Wairarapa. If the government would care to get off its lazy backside, drive across the Rimutaka Hill, sit down with Mayor Booth, Mayor Patterson, Mayor Staples, they would learn that already the Wairarapa, 3 councils there, are doing this. They didn't need, that one, they don't need to be told. 2, they don't need to be told they're useless and that they should be doing this sort of thing. They've already done it. And if one listens to local government New Zealand carefully, something that this national government seems to have lost, a skill they seem to have abandoned, one will find out that local governments are already working together in shared service. The water care contract here in Wellington, Did they need this legislation? No. Did they manage to put together a joint venture involving all of the councils under the regional council? As the regional councils managed to do this without giving away the asset to a CCO that subsequently then denies the ratepayers the opportunity to have a say in how that asset should be managed? No, they didn't. So what is this piece of legislation? This piece of legislation appears to New Zealand First to be just another underhand, dirty way of trying to force through the corporatisation of local government. It's about removing the word local out of local government, local democracy out of local government, taking away decision-making from duly elected people who are given a mandate by their ratepayers to get on and do the job, to a bunch of appointed corporate suits who then run their asset like a business and, dare I say, if they choose to do so, decide to sell it off. The thing that stands out glaringly, is glaringly obvious, and you don't have to look too far. I mean, look at Ports of Auckland and the controversy that arose as a result of their decisions to ignore the ratepayers' wishes in Auckland and set about on their plan to change the way in which the Auckland ports are run, the way in which that real estate is managed. Well, if we go back to, when was that, 2015? March 2015, had we ever seen a situation where corporates, highly respected yachtsmen, sports people, and ordinary ratepayers came together as one to protest about the way that CCO was managing that asset? No, we'd never seen anything like that before, Mr. Speaker. New Zealand First is highly suspicious of this piece of legislation. We have not seen any sign of sincerity in the government in the way in which they've handled local government up until now. In fact, we've seen derision, scorn, heaped upon local government year after year after year, minister after minister. We might accept that there needs to be some changes with the way the LGC operates, because over in the Wairarapa we were frustrated by the fact that the LGC would not listen to our proposal. We have heard countless times how supposedly the Auckland Super City model was going to deliver lower rates, reduced rates increases and better performance, and thus far none of the evidence suggests that at all, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this piece of legislation worries New Zealand First. We see at the thin edge and a drive towards the corporatisation of local governance. We see the removal of local democracy, the removal of people, the ratepayers, to have a say in how their assets will be held and managed. And, Mr. Speaker, we will not be supporting this legislation to Select Committee. We know it will go to Select Committee, but at that point, we're simply saying to the government, prove it. Prove that this legislation is required, prove that it's going to achieve what you say it's going to achieve, and prove to us that this is not just another underhanded way of nanny-stating and taking over and directing local government, who actually should be left as the duly elected people to determine their own future. And if there is a need for any more changes to the Local Government Act 2002, they should be the people who should be writing that legislation, because quite frankly, if we applied the same standards to local government that this government's applying to local government to this government itself, this government would get a fail at every turn.
Mr. Speaker.
I call Joanne.